Hello, all you lovely listeners out there, and welcome to our bonus podcast for episode 424 of Conversation Street, which is a discussion of 2020 so far. I didn't know whether to call it 2020. I was almost going to say 2020 there.
What did you call it?
2020.
Oh.
I decided at the
Old
beginning of the
school.
year.
I know you made a proclamation.
I'm switching to 20 after 20 years of sticking with that 2000, but there's obviously still remnants of it left.
We made proclamations and grand gestures at the beginning of
We
this
made
year.
many resolutions at the beginning of this year.
You said you were going to say 2020 and not 2020, and I said that this year would be the best year of my life.
How's that going for you?
It's not going great.
We've had less time at work.
It's been
a positive.
Personally, I think it's been brilliant, but on the whole,
Not so
this
good
year
for
has
humanity.
It's been a terrible one.
But how has it been for Coronation Street? That's what we're here to talk about. We always, at the end of June, do a rundown of the 6 months previously. Like, how's it going? Midway through the year, kind of check up on the show. Usually we've got more episodes to talk about than this.
Yeah, we do. We've had a bit of a mishap, haven't we?
Yes, a bit of a pandemic has meant that fewer Corries have been broadcast than originally intended. One of the things that's most annoying about it is whenever there's something on Coronation Street that I'm really excited to find out what happens next, it's like, oh, if only we hadn't had COVID, we'd have known what the outcome of this cliffhanger was going to be months ago.
Yeah, true. It's also bad because there's definitely... Because we have the blocking, and so usually you'd have to sort of wait till every other week to find out. Now you're waiting 2 weeks, and I'm sure there are characters in limbo where I'm waiting for something, and I know because I sometimes I go through the synopsis that they send through like for previous weeks, and go, oh yeah, what the hell happened with that?
Yeah,
I mean even Daniel's been in it this week. He's been in limbo for months.
I know that. I mean,
Where's Beth?
If we're kind of start kicking off with the discussion of how has Corrie managed the lockdown and coronavirus and everything, there's an awful lot of kind of give and take. A lot of we've got to be
You can't
very
moan
considerate
about
of them,
any
and
of
it's
it.
not their fault.
I think it's brilliant that we've still been able to have Coronation Street.
Yes, we're not having any periods
There's
like
no
EastEnders are with a gap, exactly.
And also, I think many people have said that they actually prefer having 3 episodes a week instead of 6.
When it first started, I was very, very positive about it, and partly because the 3 episodes felt more manageable, partly because I quite enjoyed the way the cliffhangers sometimes worked and kept us on the edge of the seat. Looking back on it, although I think Coronation Street has managed it really, really well, and there have been some weeks where I've thought, oh, that's pretty good actually. On the whole, I'm more kind of looking forward to it getting back into the swing of things, only because there have also been some weeks where it's not been great. Honestly, like the way it is at the moment, if there is like one episode, as in one double episode, that was going to be bad, normally that'd just be 1 out of 3 episodes, a third of the week is bad. Now that takes it to over half the week potentially. It's a bad week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And there have been some weeks like that. Some weeks have been great. For example, when we've had the Yasmeen story in focus, all the stuff around the time where she attacked Geoff, that was amazing.
Can I just say that was a really good example for me personally of how the cliffhangers worked in a different way to the way that they were originally intended to be. So normally in Coronation Street you have 2 episodes a day, and you get the first one, and then you have a half an hour break, and then you have the second half. And whatever cliffhangers would be resolved within half an hour. This time when we had the Geoff and Yasmeen story, the first half of it came on a Friday evening, and we had Yasmeen attack Geoff, and then we had to wait over the weekend to find out what she was going to do about it. And they never intended for that to happen, but it worked a treat for me, because you were left wondering over the weekend, oh gosh, what's going to happen now? How's she going to get out of it?
Looking back over the months, though, it just doesn't feel that there's been quite as many instances of that happening as I would have liked. So some of the cliffhangers have just been like...
I don't know how you can moan about it.
I'm not moaning, I'm just saying.
When they didn't intend for it to be...
No, I'm not moaning at all. I'm saying that it would have been even better if there had been more like that. But
they weren't...
There have been some weeks where it's dragged more than it would have done. But there have been other weeks where it's been better than it would have been. So it's, swings and roundabouts, really. it has been handled as well as it could have been. But what you started off saying, where we've had huge gaps and characters in limbo, yeah, that's been exacerbated even more than it normally would, because we were complaining this time last year about some characters that were being underused. I went back and had a look at some of the episode notes for when we did this at the end of June 2019, and we were saying, oh, we've not seen very much of Jenny or Johnny, haven't seen much of Eileen or Billy, haven't seen much of Toya or Ryan or Ali, and for a lot of those characters you can still say exactly the same thing. But it's even worse because whereas we might have had a month without seeing them, now we've got 2 months without seeing them, and it's part of the problem with the big cast as well.
It feels like it's compounded some problems, but also had a sort of side effect of revealing some strengths that Coronation Street could capitalise on, that they might not have realised that they had in up their sleeves.
Absolutely.
Like the cliffhangers, there was a bit where I think that Ian McLeod dabbled a bit with the over the weekend cliffhangers.
He did. I remember early last year.
And the thing is, it was weird because they were resolved almost as quickly as they are now, but it felt weaker because it was deliberate. Whereas now, it feels, because it's unintentional, it feels a bit more sort of, deliciously, I don't know, just like a forbidden treat that we're being given.
We'll have to see, because they've started refilming now. Yeah. Have they taken any lessons from this? And there don't seem to be any major hurry to get back to 6 a week. But I assume they want to, but especially by the time the 60th comes around. I think they've even said that in some interviews, they want to get back to there. But I don't think...
Didn't you say that you were looking at that press conference they did the other day? And they were pitching some of their episodes as 1 hour long ones. Specifically.
That was to do with next year.
Oh,
that was in 2021. They're pitching them as hour long. So we'll talk about that in the main of the podcast. But
sorry,
it's fine. But we will see. So on the whole, it's been fine.
Well, you're being a bitch.
No, because it could have been a disaster. It could have been an utter shambles. There could have been periods without any Coronation Street. There could have been dull stories that had dragged even longer. But the
backbone of the show has been the Geoff and Yasmeen story, and it's been given even more time to fester than it would have done normally. And it's lucky for Coronation Street that was their main focus, because unlike many other stories, this benefits from having more time given to it. And I know people don't like it, and there's still people saying that, it's taking too long, it's dragging out and stuff. But actually, a court case and coercive control and abuse plays out over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So it's natural for Coronation Street to give this more time.
Yeah, you're right. We'll come back to the Geoff and Yasmeen in a minute, I think, actually, because you're right, that has been the strongest story by far so far this year. Just as we're on the subject of the lockdown, though, I want to give another shout out to the other additional material that Coronation Street's put out to try and fill some of the gaps. For example, the Corrie Good News. If we hadn't had the coronavirus, we'd have never been treated to Colson's 10 weeks of... joy every Friday at 8 p.m, which it's been a highlight of my week, honestly. I was really sad it's over.
He's such a bundle of positive energy. I just love Colson Smith doing Corrie's Good News. Why can they please do it like monthly or something?
I know.
I think coronavirus has given us life lessons, everybody in a deeply personal sense, but also as a society. And I'm worried that we will not learn our lessons and try to go back to the way things used to be. And one of the things that I think it's done, apart from highlighting all the arseholes in the world whose negative behaviour is impacting everybody in a far more sinister way than it would do normally, it's also created a sort of sense of common striving, and like we're all in it together. And the Corrie Good News stuff and the community-based activities on social media for Coronation Street fans have been such good fun to take part in. And I think that some people, not everybody, have a bit more time now to spend, because we're not working or we're not going out to places, and we don't, we have to stay inside, so we're spending more time online perhaps, or enjoying TV shows or whatever. But I think that's given us an avenue to perhaps be kinder to each other in a sort of concrete way, where we can celebrate the things that make us happy and share our thoughts and opinions, and it is nice to see that it hasn't,
the fans involved.
It hasn't, for Coronation Street, social media hasn't led to a massive explosion of negativity like it has done in many other parts of society, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right though, having something like that, especially as of the 60th year, something to get the fans involved, have more official interviews.
One of the things I've been doing today is going through the Coronation Street magazine and cataloguing all the content, and it occurred to me that social media has taken the role that the Coronation Street magazine had. Like, social media and also the Coronation Street blog and Corriepedia and our podcast and Talk of the Street all kind of like together, creating this kind of network of fandom and enjoying things and celebrating Coronation Street, and Corrie's Good News has been the official face of that, and we haven't really had an official face of the Corrie fandom since the magazine. Is that? I mean, the website
not
tried
as overtly.
No.
There's
the
official Twitter, the official Facebook,
of
and
course,
so on. But it's not the same. It's not as direct.
This was
talking to us.
This was just such a treat, and I would hope that Coronation Street would look at the feedback that they've got given. And although I know that it's probably difficult to coordinate and it takes a lot of time and things, but I really think that it's worth investing in time and money in stuff like that, in community outreach things, in an official capacity. Because going through the old Coronation Street stuff, Coronation Street magazine stuff, I mean, apart from the fact that you had this every month and it had interviews and features and everything, it was just full of fan interaction and things that we just don't get to do these days.
No, not in the same way. Social media doesn't quite.
It hasn't. It's replaced it, but it hasn't filled its shoes completely.
No.
And there's still so much that can be done. I mean, we try our best, and so does everybody else. But it was so good to have Coronation Street involved in supporting the fandom and celebrating everybody who watches Coronation Street and talking about what they think and what they say. And of course, anytime there's an official outlet for something like that, it's going to be a bit censored because they're not going to have all the negative stuff. But it's still good fun.
Yeah. So anyway, the positive thing about it being over does mean at least that they are, getting back to work at least. So they're busy putting together the show that we all love, and it seems like they've got plans.
Tale?
No, not Handmaid's Tale. Coronation Street. It seems like they've got a lot of great ideas in place, and they're being very safe. And we still don't know exactly how it's going to look when these new episodes come at the end of July. Although we did see on social media this week, Georgia Taylor put on her Instagram a picture, and I think who else was there? Somebody else showed a picture of the street, and they're like rainbows in the windows, which is another thing that makes me think: is there a time jump or isn't there a time jump? I still don't know at the moment.
The return to work offers two challenges, doesn't it? Creatively and physically, in that they have to physically manage creating a TV show with the limitations that have now been put upon them by social distancing and everything, and also the creative problem of how do we portray this in a way that is going to be interesting and relevant to our audiences, because I think we've spoken about this at length, but obviously Emmerdale tackled it head on, and there are arguments to be made, and I think Coronation Street has gone down this road of it exists but it's not what we're talking about, and I think a lot of people are happy about that, because I think we're all sick of this now, and I don't think we want to dwell on it too much.
And there's no perfect way to do it, so we'll see in a month's time. It's literally a month today almost as we're recording this, that the first post-coronavirus episodes are going to be broadcast.
So there you go.
We'll see just how well that transition works. Okay, so looking back on the year, then I would say that on the whole, it has felt like a better start to the year than it did last year. I think a year ago we were struggling to find lots and lots of positives to say. Yes, we had things like the Nick and David stuff with the Archie's money. We had the factory collapse, which we personally enjoyed, although it didn't go down quite so well with all the Corrie fandom. I do feel, though, that the Geoff and Yasmeen has, even though, as you said it before, it's got its detractors, that has been a story that a vast majority of the Corrie fan base have got invested in, have rallied round, have got people, wanting to talk about the programme again.
It hasn't been very stunty, but it has afforded creative opportunities to use camera work in things. Like when we had the Geoff episode, when he was, the magician episode where we had the moving around the screen and turning around to face the audience. Yeah. That was interesting. And also when she stabbed him in the neck, of course, the effects there.
Both of those two, I would say so far, are high up there for the most memorable scenes of the year so far.
I don't think you can say it competes with the pure visual spectacle that was the factory roof collapse.
No.
But there was I felt a more emotional connection to it, because I'm more invested in these characters, and I also, unfortunately, I will say this again, the Kana fan base, and watching Rana die and Kate and everything, I just felt a lot of the time I was watching it going, oh bloody hell, what are they going to say about this?
I know exactly what you mean. The magic box scene was awesome, and like you said with the emotion, it's just about how when he afterwards he was like whispering to her, "You spoilt it, you bitch," or whatever, and and how the Jiggle It Geoff thing came out of that as well, which I do wonder how much the writer of that scene intended that to take off, as it were, because Jiggle It Geoff has been his kryptonite almost, since that's what's getting to him.
Both his triumph and his despair, because that was supposed to be his big old amazing scene, and nobody realises that when they say it to him they're teasing him, but then Ryan did use it in that way.
Because everyone's starting to turn against him now,
but they all think it's a joke. They all thought it was a joke, but it wasn't to him.
No.
Loved it.
The fact that everyone is turning against him as well is worth pointing out, that it's a fresh and unusual take for the soap to make, because often
they didn't just
you'll
go
have
down
the whole
everybody.
of the street is against Yasmeen, and who on earth would possibly think that poor innocent Geoff could do this to his wife?
Having split opinions is they're definitely working on that more than they would do normally.
Yeah. The other thing for this storyline which stands out to me, there's so much honestly this year that stood out in this story, and I might just say again how so chuffed I am that this story is the one that's in the forefront. When this started, it's about a year ago, wasn't it? I mean, it had started before a year ago. It had been dripped in, but last summer was when it started ramping up a bit more quickly. I never expected that this story would be so big so far in the future. It felt like it felt to me at the beginning, oh, this is great, at last they're giving Yasmeen something to do. She's been criminally underused for so long, because we've been Yasmeen fans so far. I couldn't be happier that she is now, she's the leading lady, she's the poster girl, if you like, of 2020 in Coronation Street.
But it's just a kick in the teeth that there are no awards this year.
There's still the Inside Soap Awards coming in September, October time, so she will get something, I'm sure.
But the big one, the Scrofe one.
The Scrofe Awards sadly is maybe they'll extend the voting period to
Honestly,
24 months next year.
They need to do something, because a year in soap can't go unmarked.
By the British Soap Awards, you're right. Anyway, what I was saying was the other scene that stuck out to me was the episode is the Charlotte Bronte one, which I didn't see coming. There's been so many moments where you've been watching it, what an utter arse, how can he be doing this though? I can't believe it. Like, you go, no, really. And when he went out there and he was looming over the chicken coop, it's like your hand was in your mouth, wasn't it? Just going, oh, he's really doing it. And then seeing Yasmeen eating her poor chicken and spitting it out with the broccoli and potatoes onto the plate, having food thrown at her.
We've got a pandemic going on. There was a food shortage. She should not be spitting chicken out. And it would have made a bit more sense if there had been the pandemic on Coronation Street and that had taken place a bit later in the year. Everyone would have gone, Oh, yeah, he killed the chicken. That makes sense.
Yeah, desperate times.
I was thinking of getting a chicken for that
reason. How resourceful, Geoff.
Yeah, Geoff, you're so smart.
That was a real kind of blood-chilling moment of many.
I loved that so much. I really love outrageous
It's a bit
television.
Dark comedy, isn't it? It's
yes.
Like, you killed Charlotte Bronte.
I have a very wicked sense of humour, and I'm only really just realising that my sense of humour is so odd.
I've known all along.
I thought everybody had a weird sense of humour, but that just really tickled me. And it was also emotional, and you felt sad too because of the performances. You know,
yeah.
I can fully watch something and enjoy the comedy, the dark comedy of it, because it was, but also feel like, God, this has just gone another step beyond where it should really be going, and I absolutely can't believe they're pushing it this far. And it is funny and ridiculous that we can watch things like, you know, babies dying and people finding out, and, you know, wives dying of cancer and people being run over and stuff. But the biggest reaction seems to have been, I can't believe they killed the chicken. And people at home, like, eating their dinner, probably eating chicken, going, this is awful. I won't stand for this animal cruelty.
I know, totally. I think another thing worth highlighting for this story is how good it's been for the character of Alia.
It's rehabilitated Alia in a sense. It's directed her smug sense of self-righteousness. Yeah, she's kind of like Sally. She's got a weaponized smugness, and she's using it against Geoff. And although I've never particularly enjoyed Alia as a character, her getting revenge is a bit more satisfying than it was when Anna got revenge on Pat, for example, because we never liked Anna either, but we really liked Pat. Whereas here, it's just so easy to sort of love to hate Geoff.
And I can totally imagine after the story is over, Alia will kind of sink back and become a bit of a dullard again. But for now, she's got her time to shine, and Sarah Khan is doing a fab job with it. And her with Ryan Prescott as well. I think they're bouncing off each other quite nicely as a couple. Sadly underused, really well. As most of the couples in Coronation Street are. But yeah, that's a really nice little element. And having Sally currently turning against Geoff as well. I'm really enjoying
the parallels also between Alia and Yasmeen and Faye and Geoff at the moment. You've got two grandchildren trying to defend their grandparents.
Yeah.
And one of them's being rejected and the other one is being manipulated. And it's quite fascinating. And it's a really good use of previously underused characters. Faye.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where has she been?
What's she been doing?
And Alia, who's been a bit... She's never been the hero of her own story, I don't think. Even when they've tried to make her, like when Luke died and she became the Black Widow of Weatherfield, and she just became a bit of a character of fun for me. I think she's turning into a hero in this story, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I am. I
never really like to see characters not being with Izzy. You know, I don't like Izzy, but I don't like seeing her being sort of.
Yeah, I like to have a good moan on the podcast as much as you do, but I'd rather love everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Nobody loves everything. Well, no, that's not true. There are some people, some fans will love everything, won't they, about Coronation Street? But on the whole, there's always going to be characters and stories that you don't like.
Right. So what?
I suppose the only thing about this story that has not rung true completely for me is the whole camera issue. And I think they've left it a little bit too long for him to get rid of that camera, because we were saying all along, if she's been so thorough with the cleaning, why hasn't she found it?
It really did make sense to me. They can make any prop they wanted. They didn't have to spend money on a camera. It's not like they were going, we don't have the budget to buy an expensive spy camera. Literally, you could have got a tiny little lens and stuck it on, a box of cereal and said it's been there the whole time and nobody saw it. Why did they get the biggest camera I've ever seen out of a CD rack? I don't know.
I know, ridiculous. Something that I've noticed about 2020 Coronation Street...
The only thing I can say is maybe that CD rack was full of, like, country and western music. Nobody would go near that in this country.
I think you're onto something, yeah. Something I noticed about 2020, Corrie, is the how some of the characters, the non-white characters, people of colour, have been to the forefront. So obviously Yasmeen, as I said, has been the poster child of Coronation Street this year, but also Asha and also the Baileys in some way have been pushed to the forefront, which has felt quite refreshing for Coronation Street. I mean, Tanisha Corrie continues to be an utter revelation to the show. I mean, we saw sparks from it last year, didn't we, during the skin lightening storyline, sorry. And she's...
Did they have any of that this year, or was it just last year?
It was only touched on as part of the Asha Flasher storyline this year. But she's... I'm not, some characters, some actors, I sometimes have to force myself to like, or I'm like, I think I like this. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna go with it. But with Asha, it's like I'm there. She's got me. I can just sit back and enjoying her.
Yeah. I think one thing is important to mention is that the Bailey storyline. A lot of the criticism of it is that we haven't had a black family on Coronation Street for a long time, and we've not really had a black family like the Baileys.
No, the closest we've had is like Mandy and Jenna.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, back in the 80s we had, what was her name? Sonia, who's going out with Curly, but...
So they're the first black family to sort of move into Coronation Street as a family unit.
Yeah.
And I think people have commented that they didn't really like the fact that their race became an important focus of their story.
And it really is, isn't it? Like the Issues family.
The thing is, to not address it is not necessarily the right thing to do, because they're the only characters that can portray this story. And it would be wrong for Coronation Street to pretend that racism doesn't happen. We know we're going through a period of sort of social change regarding racism and people focusing on social justice. So I think the Coronation Street were right to take the Baileys and use them as a sort of springboard. But again, and I agree with this, the criticism has been that it doesn't, the Baileys could be any black family. The storyline that they've been given could be, there's nothing special or unique about the Baileys yet. No, particularly,
and they've been here a year now.
It could have been any black family could have had the exact same storyline, and so it feels like now we need to move on and give them something that breathes life into them as characters and doesn't make them like tokens of a story that is an important one, but and I think so. It's important to recognise that Coronation Street can still do these storylines with other characters of colour. So you've got Asha, and you've got with the bullying and the online pornography stuff, and you've got Yasmeen.
Yeah.
And those two stories are not in any way related to the race of the characters.
No. And
I think that if you're going to criticise the Bailey storyline and say that Coronation Street is focusing on just their colour and not on anything else, you have to also recognise that Coronation Street's doing really good things in pushing forward other characters from...
Yeah, you're right. They just need to develop more of a personality for the Baileys. They've been here for a year now, and I still don't feel like they still feel like, the new family, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think they should do after 12 months. And there's still some dangling threads, like this whole Grace thing. That's been another victim of the protracted storytelling that's been brought about because of the virus. But come on, get on with it, I'm thinking. The same with the James story. They've had little pockets of the James coming out as gay story, which has been another issue. For like 2 weeks, it's all big and in the news, and this is the big focus, and look at us tackling this issue, and then it goes again. It's just a bit frustrating. It's almost like Corrie don't trust themselves to give them the story for longer than a fortnight.
It's all really lovely to flesh out Michael's character, and we like Michael and we think he's great. And so having Grace and, what's the kid called?
Tiana.
Yeah, great, lovely. But only if we had enough time for all the other characters who are actually main cast. I would love to sort of go meandering down the sideways back alleys with Michael and Grace and sort of concentrate on I'm not here for that though. I'm here for where the hell is Johnny and Jenny? What's going on with Toya and Imran? What, all these characters that are main billing characters who are getting barely a look in while we're farting around with bloody Grace.
Yeah,
I really don't, let's have more Baileys as a family stories, and
or just get them integrated more with those other characters.
Can I also just say, where the hell is Dee Dee? We've been waiting for this girl to turn up. We've heard bits and bobs about her. She's like the most hyped. When she gets there, she's going to be the most hyped
rival. She's got a lot of expectations to live up to.
I feel, whoever plays her, God help you. There is so much weight been put on this character. She almost feels a bit like she's going to turn into Fat Brenda, whereby she never appears on screen, just becomes a legend in her own lunchtime.
Yeah, you're right. Can we just go back to the Asher stories? Because I also want to say a big sort of give props to Adam Hussein, taking over the role of Adi from Zenon. He really has
hit the ground running. Done excellent work. He feels really natural in the role.
And I'm not thinking. I know, exactly, and that's the mark of a good replacement. I'm not thinking that's not the real such and such.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you're Adi now, because bless him, Zenon was fine, but Adi was as a nothing of a character.
That's a testament to the lack of use of his character, as much as it is how good Adam has been as a new version of that character. He just commands the screen, doesn't he?
He and Tanisha still seem a little bit old for the fact that the characters are supposed to be 14, 15, but it's no Jack Webster situation here. I think that they do it well enough, but he has been fantastic.
Great
actor.
Adam Hussein's got like a kind of a sort of Disney prince kind of looks and accent.
Oh yeah. They're gonna heartthrob him.
Do you think he's gonna be a handsome heartthrob?
Absolutely is.
I don't know how old the actor is.
He's 18 or 19.
Ship him off.
He's been doing a couple of Instagram lives recently. I sat through one the other day and asked a few questions, and what were some of the questions that were coming in were like, oh, did you know you're so handsome? How are you so handsome? Or something like that. So they are totally going to do that. But
I do find it uncomfortable to talk about the way people look, but
they need a fresh, every so often, a fresh crop of people to put on the front of the soap magazines, basically, don't they? To send down the red carpet come soap award season, to go up against Hollyoaks. So he's going to be right there. But he's great. And the revival of the Alahans has been long overdue, because that was another family.
They've really been a big focus since Sunita died.
No, they really haven't. They've been paddling out in the middle of the ocean, and now they finally come back to shore. And it's been lovely for me to see some praise directed towards Jimmy Harkishan as well.
Oh, Jimmy Harkishan is, you give him whatever you want and he'll do it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about Coronation Street is they like his ham persona, but he can be so dramatic.
He can. He's just not often given the chance, and now he is, and he's reminding some viewers, I think.
I think the thing is, if you're a bit versatile, Coronation Street just throws comedy at you. I think the same things happened with Sally Ann Matthews and Jenny, because she's so versatile and she can do comedy and drama. I think Coronation Street goes, oh, quick, we need more comedy.
We fell in love with the character back 4 or 5 years ago because of the drama.
Well, no, when I was going through the... it was 5 years ago when she had her breakdown, when she kidnapped Jack.
Yeah.
And I was going through that for the quiz that we did at the beginning of the show, and I was just going, yeah, my God.
That was good.
What a different character she was. She's got so much range. But that's the thing. Soap actors in general have such great range because they have to be versatile. And I think sometimes they get put in a shoebox.
It's just been a massive joke that the biggest thing that Jenny and Johnny have done so far in the first half of 2020 is go to France. Yeah, their story is we're going off screen for a bit. Well, you were off screen beforehand. You were just upstairs in the Rovers. It's like it's such a shame. I hope they come back with a bang.
Doing up a bathroom that we've never seen.
Yeah, there's been so much talk about this B&B stuff, which I suppose is finally bearing fruit now we've got Scott in there. But the Rovers...
What a boring character to
this
bring
time
in
last year, we were saying they need to do more in the Rovers. The Rovers are supposed to be the hub of the show. It's all about the Rovers and everybody's socialising in the Rovers, but we're just not seeing it.
Can we also just point out that when Toyah and Peter were the landlord and landlady of the Rovers, they were, Toyah was in almost every scene.
Yeah.
And we still get just as many Rovers scenes as I think we ever did. But where the hell is Johnny and Jenny?
Although, to be fair, when we did the top 10 character appearances at the end of 2019, we were surprised that didn't Jenny get in the top 10? That even somehow it just.
I know, but it feels like
such. I don't
want to moan,
Corrie. Come on.
I don't want to moan.
Sort yourselves out.
One of the things that I really want them to focus on is their core talents. Their core talent, and I think chasing fan favourites that people talk about on Twitter feels like an easy win, and you get instant feedback that's positive almost universally, but it's not the best thing for the show.
Not always.
Like with the Carla and Peter stuff, there's a massive fan base for those two characters and they're really feeding it at the moment. They had the Scallywags storyline. They dressed them up for VE Day. But I don't really want to be watching a show and go, fan bait, fan bait, fan bait.
I've enjoyed the little that we've had of Carla and Peter the last few weeks.
Again,
but you're right, that's what it is.
Those two characters should be headliners. Everybody feels like a sort of it's not an ensemble. It's like a continuous parade of bit parts. That it should be more like an ensemble show, which is what Coronation Street should be.
Yeah.
And I've said this, we say this all the time, the cast is too big, but I would not want to be the person who sits there with a Sharpie and goes through and says, get rid of them, get rid of them, get rid of them, because I love everybody on the show.
Yeah.
Even the people that are a bit crap, the characters I don't particularly like, that even they are played by talented actors who have so much potential. It just feels like nobody gets a chance to do anything, because as soon as they have a storyline, they've got to give it up for something else that's coming along.
Yeah, and then the storyline's over and the character has to disappear off screen because they're going on holiday for 6 weeks or something like that.
It's difficult. It's difficult, and I also understand that it's not just. There's also logistical reasons why this happens,
Let's go back to the positives for a bit, because we have got some other negatives coming. There's one particular character we haven't mentioned yet who has been quite a focus of this year, just the same as she was a focus of last year. They didn't get the feedback from fans that we're not particularly wanting to see so much of that character, but we'll save that for later. One of my other highlights this year has been elements of the Jade story. Although the final moments of it where Hope inexplicably turns against her and sends her on her way and Jade disappears down the street with a tail between her legs, never to be seen of again, was a bit of a belly flop of an ending. I quite enjoyed the silliness of it. The scene where Fizz attacked Jade with the chopping board or something, wasn't it? I thought it was great. And when Jade was unconscious on the floor, then Evelyn comes in and she's disappeared, wondering about has she hidden Hope up in the attic. I thought it was delightfully silly and engaging.
One thing I am noticing about watching vintage Corrie and comparing it to modern day Corrie is that vintage Corrie doesn't really have anything ridiculously outrageous and bombastic, whereas those things are humdrum and commonplace in modern Corrie, like the secret daughter of a dead serial murdering teacher comes back to snatch a child and take her to France and then gets beaten with a chopping board. It is silly and ridiculous, but it is sort of the symptom of modern day soaps, isn't it? It's
got to get the viewers, got to get the social media clicks.
But I quite like it.
I like it.
It's ridiculous
and a problem with it.
And nobody's going to go, this is an issues-based storyline because this happened to me.
I know.
But then, that's the thing. I don't think you can say vintage Corrie ever really had issues-based storylines or outrageous ones. It was just everyday life.
Yeah.
But I think that well has been exhausted.
You're right, so they're having to think of more and more
if you want to watch that,
things.
This is the thing about Coronation Street. If you want to watch that, there's, 60 years of it. or whatever you want to, where you want to put the pin in, 30 years, 40 years, whatever. They've already done it. It's been done. If you want to watch it, it's there for you to watch.
A lot of what made the old Corrie good, though, is because I felt we knew the characters more back in the olden days, because there were so few of them.
Smaller.
And so more could come out of the general day-to-day interactions of characters, and how would this character react if they got into a situation with this character, whereas these days, we just don't feel like we know the characters as well as we might. Mm-hmm. So they have to just get some characters and do something bombastic with
them.
With them, yeah. But yeah, the other thing with this Jade story, and I probably said the same at the end of last year, I have appreciated that it's given Tyrone and Fizz a bit more to do. And I know I'm in the minority, whereas I enjoy them as a couple. And we're recording this on Thursday at the moment, and I believe that they got some more stuff coming in the Friday episode. I've really loved seeing them. And of course, it's meant more Evelyn as well, who continues to be, the best new character on Coronation Street that we've had in the last 2 or 3 years. She's been wonderful. The stuff with her and Arthur as well, a bit slow, but I have enjoyed the continuing softening of Evelyn, but she's still got the hard edge that makes her a proper Corrie battle axe.
Evelyn is one of those characters that I feel like is guest starring, and I don't want her stints at ever end.
I know, I'm savouring every scene that she's in, because I think Maureen Lipman's going to go, I don't want
limited.
to.
Maureen Lipman could do whatever the hell she wants to do. She could, retire. She could go off and do a film. She could go and do whatever. She probably has no end of offers, and I feel like pathetically grateful, like some kind of sad ex-girlfriend who has their lover come back to spend a night with them, just being grateful for the time I have. And I just absolutely love her so much. She's so fantastic. She's such a big name, and she's managed to slot into being Evelyn seamlessly now. It took a while, there were a few bumps, but now I think iconic character.
I think so. I think she's getting there. The thing is, if she were to leave this year, I think she'd be forgotten about, in the same way that, say, Sylvia was. So that they've just got to keep her, throw whatever money they can at Maureen Lipman to get her to stay. Scenes like when she's going around the medical centre shouting out for Dr. Gadass.
She is just hilarious. Really great. She's so good.
She's got great comedy timing. Her delivery is always spot on. She doesn't have misses.
And it is also really good to have an older character, a new older character come into the show.
And one that is so full of life as well. Yeah. It's just not just an old crumbly sitting there in the Rovers, sipping a sherry or anything.
And I really feel like Coronation Street is doing a really good job of appealing to multi-generational viewers, because you've got, on the one hand, you've got like Asher and all the younger characters who are doing really well, and then you've got on the other end of the scale you had Shady Acres or whatever it is, and Ken and all, heritage characters, plus Evelyn, and you've got who Ruler plays, Claudia. They've got a whole spectrum, and they're doing them all pretty well.
Yeah, they are doing them pretty well. Which
hasn't necessarily always been the case.
No. Also, I want to give a bit of a quick shout out to the Ollie Wobbles story that's just starting to drip in at the moment as well. So, because Leanne's been very underused for a few years, hasn't she? And so that's an example of taking a character that's been on this street on and off for a good 23 years, I think, now, and they're finally giving us something else to do again.
You can tell Leanne has been underused for many years, because I haven't had cause to complain about her, because I used to really dislike her character and think she was annoying and shrill. But now she's back, and she is better than ever, in my opinion. She hasn't been annoying for a long time, but that's because she hasn't had very much screen time. Now she's getting it, and she is very relatable. Even if you're not a mother or you don't have children, I think anybody can watch her and feel moved.
And she's reminding us what a fab actress Jane Danson is.
She is fantastic.
Absolutely. A couple of other positives before we move on to the negatives. Some of the things in my notes.
Isn't Nick fabulous as well? I have to say that.
Yes, absolutely. We know that if we don't mention Nick, we will get a complaint.
So, fantastic. Such great range.
I like the angle that they've given him in this Ollie Wobbles story, where he's the outsider, because it's very much Steve and Leanne, with him being shunned out because he's not the real dad.
Yeah, I mean, this is an example of why, although the cast is so huge, I wouldn't want to get rid of people. That there are so many great networks of character interactions and history that it would be sad to get rid of anybody.
Yeah.
Not that Nick would be anywhere near the front of the line if I were to start chopping heads
not
off.
Not at all. Very interested to see where that story goes, because it's going to be harrowing. I think
is the word.
That is the word that we can say. Wherever this goes, there's going to be drama.
I think if you know how people say, "Oh, what's the word of the year?" and everyone's going to say it's either going to be unprecedented or coronavirus for this year. But I think harrowing is a pretty good word as well.
A couple of other positives then. Nina, she started in the show October, November last year. Bubbling along nicely. She's still not had a huge story to get her teeth into, but there's not a lot to dislike about her at the moment, I would say, and she seems to be going down pretty well with the fans.
She is so fun and quirky.
Yeah, quirky is right. She feels fresh and different.
Please do not do what Coronation Street normally does, which is like that old adage
normalise her
of hammering the nail hammers down.
Yeah.
I mean, that the hammer, whatever, when a nail sticks out and you get hammered down. Remember how weird and original Sinead was when she came into the show? She was like a ditzy. She was like Luna Lovegood of Coronation Street, and then she got turned into anyone else. You know.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that because
she's such a cookie cutter, boring character by the end that Daniel's continuously following blonde women around because he's confused about whether his wife's alive or not anymore, because he literally can't tell the difference because she didn't have a personality.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm hoping that because Nina is so noticeably different, they couldn't get rid of that completely. They can't really do anything
without people noticing.
No, so she's doing great, and it looks like she's going to be. They're involving her a bit with Asher as well, aren't they? Fostering a bit of a friendship there. It's fantastic that it's been given Roy something to do. That scene where she and Roy went back watching was just lovely.
It was also character development.
Yeah.
That didn't progress plot, but it didn't matter. It
didn't matter. In an age where people, us, complain that it is too plot driven sometimes, that particular scene was a real character moment. So more of that, please. Alina as well, nice to have her back. I'm not
particularly sure that I'm.
I know we were wanting her back, and I do like her, but I'm not sure about this.
It's really sad because
quagmire she's stuck in at the moment with Seb and Emma.
It was really sad because the Emma, Seb, and Alina love triangle was kind of sweet and interesting, but only for a very brief moment in time, and now we're here and we've come back to it.
It's another victim of the 3 episodes a week. I think if we hadn't had that, it would feel
I don't care.
a bit
I just feel like
pacier.
saying to Seb, just bloody pick somebody and tell the other one to go and sling their hook.
Yeah.
I love all of these characters, and I just I want to slap them around a bit and get them to make their minds up.
I kind of want to slap Emma around a bit at the moment, and obviously
Emma's
not really.
not done a lot great.
No, they've got to really watch themselves with Emma, because she was so good in her first year.
I just don't want them to do what they did with Gemma, which is to have a great character who works really well as a comedic character. She's charismatic and she's won the affections of people almost instantly, and she's fun and vivacious and interesting, and then panic because they haven't got anything to give to get her to do, and then give her something really boring and cheerless to get her I mean, the stuff about her being Steve's daughter, okay, it worked out in the end for them, but look at what they've done to Gemma, and just beware, because you can take somebody who is a really perfect Coronation Street character and you can chuck them down a hole, and will they ever climb out? I don't know.
Hello, Carla, you still down there?
Exactly.
It worked with Raquel. They were able to give Raquel some really sad, dramatic stories and moments to deal with, and she didn't feel like she ever moved away from the character that they brought her in as, or that she eventually became. But yeah, Emma, I'm feeling that they're losing her. I'm not sure what it is.
She's not got anything to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Raquel was such a big character in the show.
Yeah, because it's the same problem.
Yeah, it is the same problem. But not enough focus.
But nobody is watching Coronation Street and going, "I'm a massive fan of Emma," and then going, "Gosh, this is a compelling love triangle." I'm really interested to see Emma sad again about her broken heart and being treated like a mug.
No. We haven't mentioned the 10,000th episode yet while we're on the positives, which is a bit of a strange one to be leaving, because I think for lots of fans that has been a real highlight of the year. And I would say, looking back on that, yes, it was great, but there's a but, and it's a real shame. I enjoyed it at the time, but it felt like it's not sticking out as a real highlight of the year for me now. Is it the same for you? I think maybe it's because it was a one-off. There was the whole thing about Ken's leaving the street and then he came back again. There was some really nice little... It was just full of callbacks, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I think watching it again would be of benefit.
I think it all felt very inconsequential at the end. It didn't push Corrie in a brand new direction. It didn't launch 1,000 storylines off. It was just a little one-off. Wasn't it nice?
But what else? I mean, it's all very well saying that you would like that to happen.
Yeah.
It is good that we've bookended the year, hopefully, with some, a 10,000th episode that had a very nostalgic feel to it, and it felt very old school. I mean, the amount of times we've watched Vintage Corrie with them going off on a bus trip.
Yeah.
So many times, it was really nice to see that again. And then, the other bookend is the 60th anniversary.
Which is also going to be less stunty now than they'd originally planned for it to be.
I mean, to me, that's bad. But I'm not gonna pour water over it before I've seen it, because I have faith. And also, the thing is, there's time for that. I mean, we have so many points during the year at which Coronation Street is expected to put on a big show. Soap Awards,
BGT week, which you've not had this year.
So I'm not gonna complain about it, but
yeah, I as long as for the 60th they're able to do some really, really proper character stuff and it doesn't feel tokenistic. So some of the callbacks to old Corrie in the 10,000th episode just felt like they were ticking off a box of characters that they need to mention.
It's difficult.
It really is a hard one to balance.
I know that they have to temper expectations, but I really could have done without. I think it was Ian McLeod saying, "Oh, we had loads of great plans, but we can't do any of them." It's like, how would you feel if somebody was like, "Well, I was gonna buy you a diamond bracelet for your birthday, but I didn't have any money, so I've bought you a book about diamonds."
We'll see.
I don't need to know about. I don't need to know about what you couldn't do.
Yeah, the book's nice.
Yeah, the book's lovely, but I would actually really like a bracelet now you've mentioned it.
There'll be chance. Whatever stunts that they've had planned, I'm sure that they'll just keep it, put it on hold, and we'll be able to get it next year or whenever they're allowed.
As always, I wish I could be a fly on the wall.
On the subject of the 10,000th episode as well, the other thing that kind of really makes it stand out as being not perfect in my mind was how the Dennis Tanner stuff. Oh my gosh, we talked about it on the podcast. No, it was on the Patreon episode. We talked about how he's been dragged through the mud.
It would have been really nice if they had ended the episode with somebody just...
Did they have looking at his little carving? Was that towards the end of the episode? Or was that at the beginning? I don't remember. It's really disrespectful for the character, and that and the Ken ending has just... It's just not worked for me. It's a shame. And then the Ken, although the Ken story at the time looked like it was going in an exciting direction, I was really positive about the Stillwater story when they went into it. Here's some characters that we like: Ken, Claudia, Norris, Frida. Charles seemed you could be interesting at first. Together in a new setting, what could happen there? And then it just turned out to not much really. Ken discovers a secret against Charles, overthrows him incredibly easy, comes up against no real resistance, and then he decides, no, you're all right, I'm going back to Coronation Street. Norris, do you want to be in charge? Yeah, all right then, I'm going back. Oh, you're staying, Claudia. Yeah, and we also lost Eccles as part of that storyline as well.
The Coronation Street has a weakness for villains sometimes, and this was another example of that, because what the hell was Charles?
We just didn't know. As soon as Ken unveiled him, Charles left the room, and that was the last we saw of him.
Sometimes Coronation Street thinks that the only reason why you should dislike a villain is that their goals are opposed to a character that we like. Just because Charles was in charge and Ken didn't like it, and he was sort of like using his power
to siphon off money.
It wasn't really enough for me to really care that much about him at all.
No.
You know, just because somebody's the opposite of one of our favourite characters in inverted commas doesn't mean that it's the same thing that happened with Brian and the deputy headmaster. There was absolutely no motivation there whatsoever. It didn't make any sense. He was just the villain, and whatever he did was simply just to annoy Brian, because that's what the plot was, not because it made any sense or he had a motivation to do anything. And the same thing with the Stillwater stuff.
Yeah.
And also, Claudia sitting there waiting for that time when Ken was going, I'm going to pass my premiership on to somebody else who deserves it more. And Claudia's like, it's going to be me. And then he says Norris. And then we don't really get anything else out of Claudia apart from Ken dumping her.
Yeah, not the best ending for a beloved character.
Well, we liked her.
I don't want to dwell on the negatives too long, and this discussion is already running quite long, but the Gary story has been a big for me this year. Is that a positive for you?
I think the Gary stuff...
It's dragged.
I think the thing is, I have faith that this is going somewhere fascinating, and I don't mind being taken around the back roads to get to that destination. And I think other people...
It's had a few interesting elements, like the bit where Maria got the measles from Bertie and the whole anti-vax element, although that was more Daniel than Gary, but it was still, tied up in that story. And Ali's exit after he had that fight with Gary was quite fun. But it's really feels like that they're, circling a drain or something here. But
okay,
I don't know, maybe it's... What's
the main problem with this year?
Gemma. Again. Same as last year. They obviously had when Ian McLeod started in the show, he and I've said before, I don't fault him for it. They looked for a character that was popular with the viewers and said, right, we're going to have a 2-year, 3-year, however long plan for this character, and by gum they are sticking to it no matter what the feedback
come hell or high water
they're getting from the
whether
viewers.
You like it or
because
not.
This time last year I could say, okay, well, they wanted to give her time in the spotlight, so and they wanted to see it through, but the fact that they're still going with the quads, oh my gosh, just dreadful. The stuff with the Fresco marketing, the problem upon problem that they're throwing at them with the house fire, Alid being deaf, the bitchy mums at the mums and babies group.
Can we just point out here that any one of these stories by themselves is enough for a character to handle over the course of a year. Even Geoff and Yasmeen, who've been the main focus of this year, really only have one problem, and that is the coercive control storyline. Gemma has had 4 babies, postnatal depression, a house fire, a paedophile stepdad, a deaf child. She's had psychotic dreams about killing her children.
Sticking a child in a washing machine.
She's had vlogging. She's had fights with Frescoes over the creative control of her family story. She's, she's
been all over the place.
It feels as though just throwing everything that they can at this and nothing's sticking, because this is not the storyline that Gemma should be in.
But now she's got kids, she's kind of stuck there. And it's really sad, considering how much we used to love the character.
They don't need to have thrown everything they could at this story.
No.
And again, the other thing also is that Chesney is like a pathetic, useless accessory. Like when you buy an instant cooker, an instant what is it called? Instant pot, and you get those weird spatulas that come with it. And you put them in the drawer and they keep...
spatula of Coronation
and they fall
Street.
down the back and you don't even notice that they're not there anymore. Because who the hell wants a plastic spatula with a weird kink in the handle? Nobody. If I want a spatula, I'll buy my own spatula. Don't give one to me.
Bernie's the other element of this story that's like, I don't know whether I like her. I kind of want to like her. I know Jane Hazel-Gray's a good actress, but
I think she's alright.
Adam and Sarah have been a massive miss from me. I keep forgetting that they're married.
Don't care.
Have we even seen Adam and Sarah share a scene since they've been back off their honeymoon, which went on for about 2 months? I don't know. I don't care. There's all I'm thinking is there's got to be some really good plot reason that they're put together, because I'm not seeing the chemistry between them. We didn't see any romance. They got engaged at the drop of a hat, got married. It's that we're not seeing anything of their married life. There's got to be some reason why they put them together.
There's a reason why the movie Speed did not follow, at the end of it, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock's marriage after they came together under extreme circumstances in a romantic way, right? Adam and Sarah got together because there was shooting at Christmas.
Well, they were together before. That's
I know, but he proposed to her because of that, right?
Yeah.
And they all got caught up in the romance and the sort of the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then we followed it, and it's just bollocks.
And they're still living at the flipping Platt's house as well, aren't they? It's utterly ridiculous. I'm not feeling that at all. But then you could say that about so many characters, couldn't you?
Well, so many relationships.
So many relationships. And also, on the subject of it, the living arrangements as well. The Platt's living arrangements is ridiculous. So is having Imran, Toya, Alia, Ryan and Craig all sharing a flat. The whole story with number one, where it's Tracy, Steve, Amy, Ken still living there now. Peter and Carla were only not living there because they're moved into the Rovers at the moment.
Well, yeah, we know that's not going to last forever because they're just house sitting.
Yeah, they're just temporary. So
and then you've got Abby, Emma and Seb, who actually...
Not Abby, Alina, Emma and Seb.
Actually have tension regarding their living arrangements, but that's not even that interesting.
No. But on the subject of Abby, now you come to mention it, what's going on with her and Kevin? And again, another pair that came together for plot reasons, and that was all right. When Abby blew up Ray's car, we were cheering her on, and I don't mind the idea of the pair of them together. But we haven't seen them together. What's their relationship like?
Coronation Street is very weak with relationships. They like to set them up as a story, and then like
that's
Billy,
their biggest weakness, and the fact
Billy
that
and Paul, Imran and Toya,
yeah,
Abby and Kevin,
and the fact
Jenny
that
their
Coronation Street has been built on such fantastic pairings, Stan and Hilda, Jack and Vera,
even things like Len and Elsie, who never got together, and they were like the Ross and Rachel of Coronation Street. They couldn't even do that now because they wouldn't be able to help themselves.
I know. Oh, they wouldn't even get a chance. They probably wouldn't have enough scenes together.
Yeah.
It's a real... They've got to sort that out. That's my biggest message.
These days, if anybody on the street got divorced, I don't think I would really care, or split up. The only ones I would care about are people where I actually like the actors personally, and I'm like, oh no, I want them to split up. But that's not a reason to
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if Jenny and Johnny split up, if Imran and Toya split up.
Yeah.
If I think even if Abby and Kevin at the moment, because I still quite like
Sally
Carmen.
What about Sally and Tim?
I mean, what's going on there?
Well, you would be annoyed if Fizz and Tyrone split up.
Yes, I would be annoyed if Fizz and Tyrone split up. But it wouldn't send ripples through the programme, would it?
No. Coronation Street needs to work on interpersonal relationships, marriages, goings out.
Yeah, give us a reason to invest in these characters. Otherwise, you can stick Tyrone and Fizz on the front of the soap magazine, as they have done this week, saying "New Jack and Vera" as the headline, as much as you like, but we're not going to buy it unless we see it.
One thing that they're good at though is family stuff, like Barlow's and the Platts, and
they're
you really
better
feel
at that.
like you really feel like there's a real bond that.
It's because families, you're stuck with your family, aren't you? And yes, you can say, I'm never going to speak to you again as a cliffhanger to one episode, but you're still tied to them.
Well, they managed to think of reasons for those characters to gather together for various reasons. Like Christmas or birthday or christening or a marriage or whatever, and they all get together and they all have an argument.
Yeah.
And they can't really seem to think of compelling. I suppose there aren't really big life reasons why you get together with your partner. You just live with them the whole time.
Yeah. Although on the subject of families, I would say that the Platts haven't been as strong this year as some previous years,
but only because they've been so very heavily used.
Yeah.
And I still think
I'm kind
honestly,
of invested in this Shona thing, but I'm not completely sure. It just doesn't feel as gripping as it should be, and I still can't shake the idea that Shona's amnesia is a bit unrealistic, and I still haven't had anyone write to me yet to tell me that they've lost huge chunks of their memory and their personalities. It just doesn't feel believable enough to me. Although one thing I will say about the Platt story is Jack P. Shepherd, when he's given the chance to, has still been amazing. The moment when Shona was brought round after the shooting, and David's goes to the corridor and says she's going to be okay, and collapsed, was wonderful. The relationship with Gail, still amazing. Gail's birthday episode was a Platt highlight. Her and Audrey, and David when he gives her the card, wonderful.
This is the thing.
Built on long term, we know what these characters like and how they bounce off each other.
The Platts and the Barlows are the twin foundations on which Coronation Street, I think, is built at the moment, and without those really strong bonds between the characters and the actors, I think a lot of what we see would be quite hollow, to be honest. They're kind of coasting on those things, that these actors have been there for years and years and years, and they've got really good chemistry. They've just got to build it elsewhere. I don't know. I think you know, is it an exceptional thing that we shouldn't expect to always happen? You know, is the fact that the Barlows and the Platts are so great, is that just an anomaly? Is it fair to expect that to happen every time? I don't know. But you know what I mean. That the Barlows. Not as featured.
Out. Well, Kate Oates, when she came in, she made purposefully reinvigorated the Barlows, so it can be done.
She did a brilliant job. I know, but she's building on history.
Yeah.
She didn't just come in and make them out of new cloth, did she?
No,
like the Baileys.
That's true.
That the Platts and the Barlows are, to me, like I said, the twin foundations. And no matter what they do, I think those characters, no matter what stories they're in, there's they'll always that bond.
Yeah. Okay, so let's round this up then. What other things of the 2020 haven't we talked about yet? The Ray mystery is still kind of interesting, but I'm surprised. We said back at Christmas time, or he'll be out within months, and he's still there, but he still hasn't really done much, has he? It's surprising how little bistro there's been, considering
he's just redone it, hasn't recently. He? And now it's sort of just appeared without. I mean, they had the big Bailey's reveal of it.
Yeah.
But now it's just sort of gone unremarked upon.
I've kind of got a feeling that he might have been a highlight on the Britain's Got Talent week, and that they've pushed it back because Britain's Got Talent's not happening. I'm keeping my eye out on that one. I still don't buy. I mean, Ray's no Pat Phelan or anything like that, but I think there's potential there.
The last thing that
and he owns the garage, doesn't he?
I know, but the last thing that Ray's done is fire a racist, so he's not exactly up there with the great villains of Coronation Street past, is he?
Very true. What else is there? Bethany's gone, Michelle's gone. Both exits that felt a little bit underwhelming to me. You know, they weren't sensational, but maybe they don't always need them.
Well, so is Ali.
At Dr. Ali, yeah. I think that's kind of it. That's been 2020, hasn't it? It's been all right, and there's been lots of hurdles that Coronation Street has had to overcome thanks to the pandemic. It's been okay, but thank goodness for the Geoff and Yasmeen story, because that's been the highlight. That's been the highlight. That's been the shining star of 2020, and I just hope that whatever they've got in store for the 60th, I hope they're able to do something that when we come back in 6 months' time and do the rundown of the year, we're not thinking that was a bit of a flop. I really, really want to love it. Really do. We shall see. So before we finish off, I just wanted to talk a bit about the podcast in 2020 and the highlights of that. It's been another good year so far. I've been really proud of how the podcast has evolved this year. What about you?
Well, you're the one that does all the work.
Yeah, but
I'm proud of how much work you've put. So much. I think. I feel like I'm writing your school report. You started the year off with a focus on various things, and you have.
Some of them have worked better than others.
Well, you've focused on the YouTube stuff, which is really good, and we've done a few extra bits and bobs, which we've been able to do.
With the YouTube, I didn't even start the year with that as a big aim, really. I just saw that Walford Weekly were doing it and thought, I want to do that. And although our YouTube hits are so minimal, but I do think that that's a really good. I'm pleased to have taken a bite out of that apple and getting our name out.
You've progressed it so that we have a YouTube channel.
We have got some kind of presence
content there
on YouTube and on Instagram as well, and I think we've hopefully gained a few new listeners via that. And I'm personally, I just enjoy making all the covers and everything for the YouTube because I like doing my little graphic design there. But it has made extra work. There's a lot more that I'm having to do for the podcast each week now compared to before. But I don't think it's a bad thing.
I don't think you'd know what to do with yourself if you didn't work.
I hope that some people appreciate it. I'm sure they do.
Well,
the YouTube channel's also enabled us to do things like the Charlie DeMello interview and put that there, and the Maureen Lipman cook along is on our YouTube. The magazines, and we started to think of what other things can we do that can add actual video content to our YouTube rather than just a pretty picture and audio. And the fact that we've been able to re-upload old stuff as well, I think some people appreciate, because we're getting new listeners all the time, aren't we? And we've got 424 odd episodes that we've done now, and there's plenty of great material, old podcast material that would have just sunk without a trace if we hadn't re-uploaded it.
We've also split the episodes in two because I've always said that the episodes are too long. People don't like them being so long for some reason.
Some do and some don't.
Some people have told us that that's a massive hurdle, and I know we've had criticism from people about it. This was never supposed to be a slick, overproduced highlight reel of Coronation Street.
No, it's just us sitting down on the sofa having a chat.
This is supposed to be something you can put on, that you can listen to, that you don't really have. It's not like we're throwing historical facts at you. We're just chatting, and it's supposed to be like you're sitting with your friends in a pub and they won't let you get a word in edgeways. That's how I describe the show. But the thing is that sometimes some of the stuff that we do gets buried in the middle of a podcast. So splitting that content out, which is what you're listening to now, and making it available as a separate episode is supposed to facilitate people finding older content and being able to enjoy it. It's bitten us in the bum a little bit because I think it's affected our stats.
I think it has affected our download stats, and I've never really understood that.
Don't really care about
how it
either.
Works. It's not the be all and end all. But
The thing is, at the end of the day, we're not doing this because we want to get 10,000 downloads a day or whatever, because we know that we're a small. There's already it's a small range of interest. And I've said to you before as well, what do you want to get out of this show? And really, all we want to do is share our love of the show with people that also love the show. And we're doing that, and we're doing it better than ever, I think.
I think so as well.
And a lot of what we've been able to achieve is through Patreon, and our Patreon has grown massively this year. And I'd like to thank everybody who is a patron. And also, if you're not a patron, don't worry about it. Just you sharing and talking about us and feedback and giving us feedback and liking us and interacting with us on Facebook and Twitter or whatever, that adds to it, and reviewing us on iTunes and stuff. That's all part of supporting us, and like I said, we only want to do what we're doing. We have ideas for how to branch out in the future. But I think that we're doing what we want to do now.
You said a while ago that I kind of went into 2020 with some ideas about what I wanted the podcast to do, and one of them was, it's the 60th anniversary, let's delve into the classics which were obviously a part of the podcast before because we're doing the character profiles and the feature discussions and everything, but we hadn't seen any really of the 60s and 70s, and now on our DVDs we're nearly at the end of the 70s, so I feel like I've got a pretty thorough knowledge of the whole range of Coronation Street, and it's not just from things that I've read about, and I'm really glad that how much you've enjoyed it, and it's added a certain richness to our discussions about the programme. It feels like we're not, faking it.
When I've spoken about Coronation Street in the past before, it was in a sort of unfathomable, this is mysterious and unknowable kind of arcane knowledge that only few possess, like some kind of secret knowledge. But now I feel like if I say Elsie Tanner, I know who the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I always felt I've never tried to represent myself as somebody who knows everything about Coronation Street, and I still don't think I do. But I feel I've got a bit of a better foundation on which to. I've loved watching the old episodes. I've loved doing. I always look forward to the feature discussions where we do our 5-year review of them. It's just given me such a better understanding of the show as a whole. Certain characters that we would have thought we would love, we have fallen in love with. Yeah, it's like back in the day, if you had told me something about Coronation Street, there would be no way for me to know if you had made it up or if it was real. But now I get the references when they talk about VE Day and Ken was talking about his dad. I was like, yeah, Frank.
Yeah.
God, I remember Frank.
Yeah. And if you were to have a character name, like if somebody had to say Minnie Caldwell to you 6 months ago, you'd be like, oh, that was that old woman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But now the name Minnie Caldwell conjures up such images and love
I know.
in both of our hearts.
And even back in the day, I didn't really understand what a snug was, and now I do.
Yeah, it's been a really wonderful. So that for me has been one of our biggest achievements of 2020. Just wallowing in Corrie's very rich history.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Yeah. The only thing I regret is that we haven't been able to watch every single episode, and we still have some ideas of how we possibly could fill in some of the gaps, but
it feels like we're seeing enough for the moment.
I think it's such a shame that there's no way to access the archive because
well, even by the end of this year we're not going to have caught up with
where we started, I know, but
it's ongoing.
I want to go back. Every year we watch Corrie, they add more episodes onto a week. So the 10 episodes per year on each disc becomes more spread out.
Yeah.
And watching those first 8 episodes from 1960 was just really fantastic.
Yeah, in a sequence.
And I just would wish that we could do that more. I know that a lot of them are on YouTube because they were on Granada.
Yeah, there's Jerry Booth. There's the name of a YouTube channel. And Auntie Corrie as well has got lots of
I
them
don't know how legal it is. But
well, Corrie's not taking them down, so they can't be that bothered.
The thing is, at the moment, we can't do that because we're trying to review the DVDs.
Yeah, we'd never get to, we'd still be in the 60s if we were able if we watched every episode we wanted to.
I know, but next year...
Yeah, exactly.
I would
that
like
could be a fill in the gaps,
to go back and actually do that.
Yeah, definitely. Finally, the other thing that I wanted this year... and I don't want to end on it's not a sour note.
Go on, say.
The interviews. My other thing that I wanted to do this year, a big aim for me for 2020 was to get a load of interviews with some past Coronation Street characters, because that's one of the things I enjoy the most, and there's been a highlight for me since doing the podcast for the past 8 years has been able to interact with some of the big names, some of the cast on Coronation Street, and also make a few friends with some of the cast as well. And this year I decided, right, I'm going to go back, I'm going to try and get hold of some past cast members for the 60th and interview them. And it started off really, really well. Getting Julie Hesmanhouse for the 400th episode back in January was a dream come true. Lovely speaking to her. A huge coup for the podcast. I was dead proud of that. Followed by Kevin Kennedy. Curly Watts was such a favourite character of mine when I was growing up. So sort of meeting... a childhood hero, if you like, was wonderful, and talking about old school Coronation Street stuff with him, brilliant. We got Simon Arnold on, who played Ashley Peacock. It's because I went to school with somebody called Simon Arnold. I always think that. Stephen Arnold, wonderful, because Ashley Peacock was a great character. and apart from that, that's all I've got. We spoke to Brian Prescott earlier in the year as well, the current character. But
I've had a few people bobbing in and out as well.
Oh yeah, of course. But I've struggled to get some of the older, the past actors on the show, and I tell you what, it's not through want to try. And I have been sending off in messages to on Instagram, on Twitter. I've been emailing agents to old characters, to actors, past actors, and just been getting brick walls, honestly. And it's been a bit disheartening, really, because
I know that's the thing. I think is has upset you. Well, not upset you, but that's
been my main of the year. My main. It's not a regret, because that would make you think I didn't try, because I did. I wish for the podcast we'd been able to get a few more of the old names on the show, but for whatever reason, there is still time. But whereas in January I was like, this is the year that we're going to do this. Now I'm feeling, it wouldn't be nice if we got, one or two more. But yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see. But, I mean, I'm in the middle of listening to a wonderful interview with Thelma Barlow that I can't remember. Distinct Nostalgia, I think the podcast is called. I'll talk about it more on the other episode. It is fantastic. I'm thinking, how'd you get Thelma Barlow? She's not even one I've tried. I thought that she was off limits. How'd you manage that? So that I'm sure as the year goes on, if all you want to hear is interviews with past cast members, I'm sure that you'll be able to, but it just might not be through Conversation Street unless we have a massive turnaround. But as I say, I don't want to downplay how excited and chuffed I was to be able to speak with particularly the Hez and Kevin Kennedy, because that was it was great. It was really
you did a great job, and you always put a lot of work into your interviews, and you're really fun to listen to when you do that. And it's really nice when people can spare the time, because we don't pay for interviews. Maybe that's the problem.
Maybe it has.
So other than that, I mean, we did the Zoom quiz, didn't we?
Oh, that was amazing.
A lot of stuff that we've done this year has been funded through Patreon. So we've been able to buy the DVDs. We've been able to do the Zoom quiz. We've bought the magazines. We've bought the stamps. We've donated to the Lily Foundation.
It's been really nice to be able to give those charity donations, Lily Foundation and then Mummy Star last year. I feel really proud that what we've done, our podcast, has enabled those donations to happen.
We've just taken people's love of Coronation Street and turned it into something tangibly good that can be used for used for the issues-based storylines that we...
The podcast is, despite it not going exactly how I wanted it to, is in a really, really good place at the moment. I'm excited about the future of the podcast. We've got lots of ideas for what we can do for the rest of the year. We've got some cool plans ahead.
And it's all steered by you. And I know you don't like it when I say this, but you are the one that does all the work. All I do is sit here and talk to you.
Yeah, but you've been cataloguing magazines this afternoon, Gemma, so
that wasn't really that hard.
Ideas. Don't worry about it. Right. Just to finish off, I asked on Patreon for a couple of comments about other listeners' highlights of 2020. Not about the podcast, but about Corrie, and we got a few responses. So Rebecca, our...
Stalwart mad
is
for it award winner
is the right word. She says that for her, highlights of 2020 included the 10,000th episode, Asha growing as a character, Nina and Roy's family relationship, Yasmeen and Geoff, Abin and Kevin finally get together, the James story and the Ollie story. So yeah, definitely some big... There have been some really great stories. I agree with Abby and Kevin finally getting together. I was pleased to happen. Let's see them actually do something together, please. Lowlights for Rebecca included the Quads and Gemma and Chesney, Gary's story dragging on too long. It's almost like I could have written this. Not enough Jenny or Toya.
Wait a minute,
I am not Rebecca. I've not been providing us with weekly feedback on Twitter for the past 8 years. Running Dennis's Ashes over, Tracy's retcon of being bi. Oh my gosh, we didn't talk about Tracy sleeping with Paula as a low light. Maybe that we've just tried to erase that from our minds.
The trouble is, you always feel as though you're being homophobic or you're not being progressive. But I think it is regressive to claim that bisexuality or homosexuality is like a come as you go sort of buffet of whatever. Like, your sexuality is fixed, and I think that it is gay people and lesbian people would agree that they cannot change their sexuality. So why would a straight person do the same thing? Isn't it what we have been fighting against, the notion that you can change your sexuality? And we've been fighting against that for decades. That's what annoys me. It's regressive, it's not progressive.
It didn't feel so awkward when Marcus was in a relationship with Maria.
Because he said, I'm not bi, I'm a straight man a gay man who's fallen in love with a woman. And he knew who he was. Whereas this
Tracy's not said she's bi.
This trashed Paula and Tracy's characters, because Paula, I thought, was a woman of integrity, who was a lawyer, who understood the not just the morality, but the legal ramifications of sleeping with a married woman. If Steve was to decide to divorce Tracy, Paula could be mentioned in their divorce proceedings as the reason for, and that's not something that somebody would want to instigate on themselves for just a quick tumble in the hay.
No.
And Tracy, who claims that she's done it before, and also the unsavoury insinuation that being prison gay, is sort of fun and carefree, when actually there are so many horrible connotations to that I don't even want to get into it.
Also, that story has had no long-lasting... What was the point of it? It was a bit of New Year titillation, and now it's been forgotten about. Thank goodness it's been forgotten about, but I could have done without it. Anyway, so going back to Rebecca, she's also wasn't a fan of the Daniel and Bethany relationship, but overall she's enjoying the year. But as usual, things could be improved. She would give it 3.5, Ken leaving the street then returning out of 5. Nancy also said that she enjoyed the 10,000th episode. She loved the Asher storyline, and Nina developed into a good character. Nina keeps getting mentioned. I think they've got something there. She's the next.
Can I just say,
to watch.
She's the next victim of Coronation Street messing up a character because they've realised that they're popular.
Yeah, watch this space.
Because really, she does fall into a bit of a... If you were to sort of categorise them, Coronation Street likes to prey upon the young, interesting, female, quirky, outsider characters, and Emma, Gemma, and Nina all fall into those.
Yeah.
I mean, Gemma doesn't really have a link to the street, but Nina and Emma both now have these sort of didn't exist before this year relationships or that anchor them into the street in a way that you hope won't be severed anytime soon.
Right. I think
if you were to score this year, what would you give it?
Well, I mean, you feel you could probably find out by taking all our scores for the year and giving them a quick average, which I'm sure Rebecca could do because she's got our scores on the spreadsheet.
Things to do.
I'm saying that so far this year is a 3.5.
Yeah, I agree with Rebecca about
that.
It's
a bit better than average, but it's not a stellar year. So I'm hoping it ramps up to the higher echelons in the second half as we're approaching the 60th anniversary. I don't know what I'm going to give it. 3.5 OVs. 3.5 newly designed factories, because we haven't mentioned that yet.
Oh, no, we haven't mentioned it.
Colourful factories.
It feels like we don't know our way around that set yet.
I know, every time they show a scene there, it's like, oh, where's this?
I like the way they redesigned it, and it feels very modern and a bit kind of like Northern Quarter kind of trendy, like heritagey and new.
It's very odd because that used to be a hub, didn't it? The factory of getting all these great women talking together, but
they've separated everyone out too much. You've got the office, you've got some kind of break room area, and you've got have we even seen anyone on a machine?
There was the other week when Geoff came in and Izzy was fawning over him.
It used to be the majority of it was sewing scenes, and then you'd have the odd break room, and then you'd have the odd office. But then there just seems to be all these nebulous areas that I don't really fully understand what they're for. And also, they keep hiring people and not kind of doing any... Like, Michael and Toya both work there. Did you guys know that?
I know, totally. And Alina does. What does she do? Yeah. Does Gail work there? Oh, she has worked there, hasn't she?
I don't know. And
it's
even
really weird.
the people that actually have jobs there, like Nick...
Yeah, I don't know what anybody does. As far as I can
tell, his job is to berate Gail, which I think he can do from home.
Yeah.
You know, working from home during the pandemic is literally him just nagging Gail for not cleaning things.
it's odd. It's like they felt that they had to open it. It was about time they reopened it, but they didn't have anything to do. So where that used to be a hub, now it's not. And interesting, the Bistro used to be a hub, but they've barely used that. The Rovers, they haven't used that as a hub for ages.
Where's the hub then?
It's the cafe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The cafe is a weird new meeting spot where everybody seems to eat all their meals and cross paths.
I tell you what though, Michael, that £2.95 for a curry, not changed in about 10 years. That is a bargain. You couldn't even buy a ready meal for that.
No wonder.
Price.
Everyone's just catching on to it, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are done. Listeners, if you'd like to feed back on what your highlights, lowlights and in-between lights of 2020 have been so far, please do send us an email. Let us know at conversationstreet@gmail.com. Has this been good for you?
Do you disagree? What have we said that's annoyed you? Anything? No? Great? Brilliant?
Have we missed anything? Because I feel we've been fairly thorough, but I'm sure there's some real fans of Moira. One episode Moira has been in 2020. What the heck? Bring her back. I'm sure there's been some fans of other obscure characters that we haven't mentioned that are screaming for us to say, yes, but what about Liam Connor?
Well, just let us know what you think. We've spent an hour and a half talking about 6 months of Coronation Street. We obviously haven't covered everything, but, you know, if you would like to refer back to the previous... How many?
We started at 398, I think, this year. So we've had like 26 episodes.
Refer back to our previous 26 episodes, and if we haven't,
of course, because that's 26 is half of 52, and 52 weeks in the year.
You can take it out with the boss, which is Michael, not me.
Yeah, there are appearances that always suggest that we know who's the real one in charge here. I'm in charge of the podcast. You're in charge of me, so you're the Uber boss of the podcast.
I'm not going to argue with that. I think that's right.
Right, we need to have our dinner, so we'll leave this. We'll leave you to do whatever you
think
want.
About it, ruminate,
listeners.
Pick your belly button.
Hope you enjoyed. We did.
You probably should wash your belly button. I bet you haven't done it for a while, and in your ear rolls and behind your ears. So I'll leave you to do that.
Ta-ra for now.